What is up, you guys? It's New Age Bohemian, and today we're talking about the ego. So today I decided to take a different approach from my usual talks or lectures, and this is more of a story. So to begin, the story pretty much takes place in my dream, actually. So this is, yes, a true story, but it's not in this conscious realm that I am in. You can tell by the title of this video that it's, Did I Just Experience an Ego Death? So, to begin, it all started with my last video. My last video was about a hike that I was taking. And in the hike, I was listening to a lecture by Ram Dass, the author of Be Here Now. And it was talking about dualism and how we're not part of our bodies. And it talked about the ego. Something that stuck to me throughout the lecture was him saying that we are not our eyes, we are not our tongues, we are not any of our features, we are not even our thoughts. That we're just pure consciousness, that we are something higher, we are in a higher level plane than that. So, as I was walking back from the hill after I recorded the video, I was walking down the hill and I kept listening to the lecture. And then I felt this energy, this amazing energy just run through me. It was like as what people would call a natural high. I was not on any substance and I was not on any hallucinating drug. I was purely just listening and walking, and I began to feel this movement of energy, and I started walking and my hands started just dancing with the wind. It was pretty windy, and I felt this natural high, and I felt a little bit like the colors were more, there was a bigger contrast, like when you're editing a picture and you zoom it all the way on contrast, how it's such bright differences. I was feeling that, so I decided to stand still and focus. And I felt like my vision was elongating and shortening, and I felt an alteration in consciousness, and I felt that high hallucinating effect. I wasn't on anything, and this was real. This is not part of the dream. This is not where I felt an ego death. It kind of hit me that I'm not my body as I was listening, but it wasn't a self-realization, sorry. So I kept going, and I sat down next to my car and I started meditating on the side of the road. And I stood up, put my shoes back on, and I drove home. And everything was fine. I still felt this kind of natural high, like if I was just elevated onto a different level of just pure bliss, of just peace. And so I felt like that pretty much for the rest of the day. Then I just went on my regular day, edited the video, uploaded it. And then I went to sleep. So I do not consider myself a lucid dreamer, but I am in this state mostly every single night where it's in between half lucid and half not lucid. So I will be sleeping, and sometimes I'll sleep the whole night and remember my whole dream, remember every single detail, remember acting within the dream, but not realize that I was dreaming. And then other times I'll realize I'm dreaming, but I can't really control the dream. I'm just dreaming, and it's kind of like if I'm watching a movie. And I'm kind of just watching how everything plays out. So the next step for me in lucid dreaming would be being able to be completely aware that I'm in a dream and be able to control it. I still haven't gotten to that point. I haven't really tried very, very hard to get to that point, maybe once or twice. And I've had really weird dreams when I've tried. And I've realized that I'm dreaming, but I still haven't been able to control my dreams. In a sense where I'm dreaming and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go explore this way and see what's over here. And I haven't been able to do that. What I've been able to do is be able to realize that I'm dreaming and understand everything as a dream sense. So I was having one of these dreams where I realized it was a dream, but I couldn't control it. So I was going around and I was filming for some reason. And I was filming in a camera that was like a GoPro, but this GoPro had a screen onto it. So I looked down at the screen as I was filming in my dream, and I saw something very, very familiar to me. I just felt like it was a familiarity that I had never seen before. And it was a human being. And I was looking at the camera, I wasn't looking up, so I was filming looking at the camera. And then the person in the camera turned around, and I saw myself, as I see myself when I look in a mirror. So I don't know if that's truly is me, but it's the perception of me. It's my ego. It's what I perceived myself to be. I saw the boyfriend part of me, the best friend part of me, every single part of me that there is, the athlete part, every single part that I know me as, my ego, I saw it. And when I saw it on the camera, I looked up and I stared straight into my own eyes. And I looked down and there was nothing there. There was nothing. I had no body. It was just my pure sense of being. My higher consciousness was looking at myself. And I realized that that's not me. I am not the idea of being a boyfriend. I am not the idea of being a friend. I am not the idea of being an athlete. I am not the idea of being a YouTuber. I am not what I look like. I am not my physical body. And I kept saying, I am not my tongue. I am not my eyes. I am not my... And that went on for 30 minutes at least. It felt like 30 minutes. It was probably way longer since it was a dream. And I kind of woke up and I realized that was like an ego death to me. That was on a different plane of consciousness, an ego death in that plane where I realized that I am not my ego. I am something much, much higher than this. So to make it clear, I don't believe that there is one ego death, that your ego dies and you're done. I believe that we always have our ego with us, and it's something that will sneak in here or there from everything from after we finish meditating and we're like, oh, I can meditate now. That's your ego speaking. It kind of defeats the purpose of meditation, or when you practice yoga, or when you read a book. Or when you realize that you're living in the moment right now and you're like, oh, I'm living right now. Well, now you're not, because you've taken it out and you're making an egotistic mindset of it. So I believe that our ego can, at one point we will reach the point of enlightenment, or the final ego death when you realize. But when you realize that final ego death, it's not ego death anymore. It's just nothing. It's it's a higher consciousness that I haven't reached, that many people don't reach, that there's very enlightened people that do reach this point, but it's the final ego death. And I believe that you have many ego deaths slowly throughout your life that make you who you are, because you start detaching from your ego, and that's when you become more spiritual, a more spiritual being. And that's part of being on the spiritual path. It's kind of an ego death. It's kind of, you passed one point, alright, keep going, because your ego is still going to be right behind you. You can't really, your ego is like your shadow. Ram Dass said that in his lecture. Your ego is kind of like a shadow. You can't really outrun it. It's always going to be there. Even if it's behind you or in front of you or in you, your shadow's always there. You can't outrun a shadow. So you kind of have to learn to just not worry about it. So that's my story about my ego death. I think it's one of the ego deaths. I have not had a psychedelic ego death. I have not had a natural ego death. I've had thoughts that are kind of like ego deaths, but I wouldn't say that I've had a pure spiritual ego death yet, because I still let my ego get in the way sometimes. But it's a learning experience. But this ego death in this conscious realm of sleep was very different, and has helped me realize and come closer spiritually with myself in this realm of the conscious self and the human experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoy my story. If you guys have a story like this, leave it in the comments below. I'd be so happy to hear all your guys' stories. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, check out my links below. Make sure you guys check out the video of the hike right before I had this ego death, and you guys have a great day.